You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
I'm Katrina, and I love anime.
I'm Steven, and I'm aware of anime.
But what if that affection could rub off?
Perhaps that excitement in her eyes got me curious.
I could offer up some solid anime.
I could give them a watch, just to see what all the fuss is about.
And maybe, just maybe,
I could learn to love anime too.
Welcome to Inspired by a Weeaboo. Hello and welcome back to Inspired by a Weeaboo. I am your host Katrina, and with me is my husband Steven.
Hello.
We just finished episode 15 of Fullmetal Alchemist. Steven, what did you think?
It was a lot going on here. I'm trying to remember everything, so I'm making sure we cover everything that happened here because a lot was revealed. A lot of things we've been talking about, and a lot of my fears that I had happened.
Yeah.
First of all, I guess I'll touch on this because we didn't touch on it last episode. We got new opening credits.
Yes.
Like all new opening credits, and only 13 episodes in. Or 14 episodes in, and we got new credits already. So, yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
What about that? I mean, anime shows don't seem to have consistent opening credits. They always change eventually.
No,
I'm not saying
there's
anything
some
wrong
good
with it.
ones and there's some bad ones, at least in my opinion. There's some anime openings that I'll skip every time. There's some others that I will sit there and I will jam along to it every freaking time.
Well, I think the one change I remember for the few anime that I've actually watched, Death Note, the second opening was my favorite.
Yeah.
When it was like a hard metal, just bitchin' song. I actually have it on my playlist somewhere. But anyway, that's beside the point. So another thing I wanted to touch on real quick that I wanted to bring up last episode that we didn't touch on, and we saw her again in this episode, was the secretary to the Fuhrer.
Yes.
And Ed gave her a look, like he was staring her down, like trying to understand, like figure her out, or like he recognized her and he couldn't place it, and that was the end of it. They didn't touch on it again. We saw her again. Nothing has come of it. So I'm assuming either he knows her or something about her is familiar.
Something about her's familiar.
Okay, we'll just leave it at that for now. But yeah, that I thought that was it was a throwaway moment that's why I forgot about it. And then when I saw her again, I was like, oh yeah, he did kind of. I remembered that. So I'm hanging on to that because they have not shown her a lot. They've only shown her twice. In this episode, she actually spoke, but it was a fleeting thing that seemed very important. So we'll come back to that. Where did we pick up? Oh yeah. So chasing or running from, Scar. They were getting away from Scar, trying to get Marcoh somewhere safe. Yes. Now, they did not say he was Ishbalian in the last episode.
I guess I misremembered.
Because in this episode, Armstrong was going to say Yura, and then they cut him off oh, we didn't reveal that. And then when they found Armstrong under the rubble, he said, no, this guy was Ishbalan. His skin tone, his red eyes, I know he's Ishbalan. And I was like, aha. So they didn't say it. You spoiled it.
Sorry.
You told me ahead of time because you knew. So, yeah, he's Ishbalan. And after seeing this episode, I have sympathy for the man. Now, I cannot condone his actions, but I understand where it's coming from.
Yeah.
100%, because the state alchemy army, if that's what you want to call it, I mean, that's what it is, they obliterated his country. All because of this stupid brigadier general getting his hands on those stones because he didn't want to lose this war. And him and his lunatic sidekick just demolished the entire country. left no person alive. And all for the sake of the fact that the doctor and other doctors who were there were doing their job as doctors. Now, how many times, like we mentioned before in episodes prior to this, that we've been rewatching old episodes of MASH, and what do they do in those episodes? They treat wounded soldiers on both sides, and the hell with it, doesn't matter what it is. They are doctors there to treat patients, period.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what side you're on. And that's what these doctors were doing. And that brigadier prick had a problem with it because it's like, well, they're getting back and they're killing my men. Brr. That's not the doctor's fault. The doctors are there to do their job, to be doctors.
Yep.
So that guy, I'm so glad he's dead. They just made me hate him even more after seeing this episode because dude is a power mad prick.
Yep.
We find out about all that. We find out all of this information via Marcoh, who is kind of recounting what happened to Ed and Al, explaining why he left. And I actually have sympathy for him as well, because he didn't desert for no reason. He saw what this asshole was doing, and he didn't want to be a part of it.
Yes.
I'm 100% on board with where he's at. He did not want to be a part of this genocide, and he just said, no, I'm out, because if this is how they're going to run things, I don't want to be a part of it. And kudos. You know, this wasn't a man who ran out of cowardice. He stood his grounds on moral principles. So I'm on his side, 100%.
Yep. And he took all of his research and the stones, you know, that they hadn't acquired just yet, but he took all of that with him.
Yeah. So good on him for that. And then we got another wrinkle, and I don't know why I didn't assume this from the start when he panicked, but Ed and Al thought, well, you know what would be a great place to hide? We'll take you back to our hometown, and you can go hang out with our friends who make the auto mail. And he mentioned their last name, and dude went into full-blown panic and took off. And I was like,
he didn't even I don't even think he mentioned the last name. He just mentioned the town.
no, he said the last names. He said
Did
their
he
last
say?
name. Yeah, he said
Okay.
their last names, and he was like, and I can't remember what their last names were, but he was like, them? No, forget it. And he just took off, and I was like, what was that about? And this is what you'd been telling me. We find out that, and I can't blame him. He's not responsible. But
Mustang or
Marcoh.
Marcoh.
Marco's not responsible for this.
No,
but I
he's
can
not
understand the
responsible.
guilt behind it. But he knows that Winry's parents were killed during this war, being doctors, doing what they're supposed to do, being doctors.
Yes.
And they were killed. They were killed by Mustang?
Yes.
Yeah, and he didn't seem like he was... I mean, he was just a man following orders. And that's what I'm kind of assuming because he didn't look thrilled about what he did. And he felt guilty and turned the gun on himself like he was about to end it all. So the war took a toll on a lot of people,
Yes.
clearly. and it was senseless, like most wars are.
Yep.
So we got a lot of information about this war, about everyone's motives, and about how it destroyed so many people's lives. These are the connective threads that you were telling me about, where everything seems or is very connected on so many levels.
And did you hear how the war started? Because that is a very key thing.
That might have been a detail that slipped through the cracks. I don't remember.
Well, it does say when he's recalling it, you know, that basically Ishbal it's a tribal, you know, city or whatever. They're tribal people. And they don't like alchemy. They view it as, you know, it's like witchcraft, like devil, you know, juju, bad juju. Anyway, basically they're pushing it down Ishbal's throat. So they're having, revolts already, but they're not really like angry enough to really start the war. But then what happens is one of the military personnel shoots a child.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, that is how the war starts. Because the military, one of their people killed an Ishbalian child. And that is what literally sparks the entire war.
And why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You don't want them there to begin with, and then a child is killed by one of these pricks?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't fault the Ishbalian people one bit for their revolt. So I'm on their side right now.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can't fault Scar for his quest for vengeance because it's what he's being driven by. And again, I don't condone it, but I get it. I get it wholeheartedly because this was the group that's why he said state alchemists that's who I'm after, because they are the people who killed everybody.
Yeah, literally wiped out because like Marcoh said, they only left a handful of them alive. Yeah,
so it's like mass genocide of these people, and he's one of the few left alive. And if he was the last, it wouldn't surprise me. But like you said, there's probably a few more out there. But still, to know that you're one of the last of your people.
Yeah.
My God.
And we haven't seen his side of everything yet.
That's true. We just know, little snippets from what he said. But, just based on that alone, that's enough. But if you're going to give me more sympathy for the man, God damn. But,
oh, yes. I feel like, and that's one of those things why I love him. Because although he seems like he's supposed to be this really bad person, the more you get to know him, and especially once you see his backstory, it just makes me love him even more. Okay.
So the state alchemy people are still tracking him down after his showdown with Armstrong. They chase him down an alleyway. He eventually comes back into contact with Ed and Al, not before he does almost face off with Mustang. I was actually looking forward to that. But then it gets cut short by Hawkeye saying, "Yeah, you idiot, fire's not going to work in rain," which, fair point. Fair point. But he does come back into contact with Al and Ed. They're split down the middle. You got Marcoh on one side, you got the brothers on the other side. And man, this is what I was worried about, because the man hasn't even had a moment to really compose himself. And the moment he gets his hands on Al, he obliterates one half of him. And I was like, fuck, I knew this was going to happen. And then Ed tries his hand at it, and he gets his entire arm blown off.
And that scene, that is one of my favorite scenes, when it pulls back and you see all the little parts of his arm as they, have come apart, and it's just slow-mo, is one of those amazing scenes. Oh, just love it. Yeah. Gives me tingles.
It's just, he obliterates them.
Yes.
And then walks up to Ed, and I knew he wasn't going to die. At least I was assuming he wasn't going to die. But boy, they were pushing it there for a minute, because he was just like, you better say your prayers, because this is it. And Al is kind of giving him, you don't do this. And Ed's like, equivalent exchange. I'll take the hit, and that'll be it. And because what else are you going to do in that situation?
Yeah.
He could have tried to appeal to him, but I don't think it was going to matter. No. At this point, because what are you going to say to change his mind?
Exactly. And like Scar told Edward before, he already gave him a chance. Edward was a state alchemist. He gave it up, and Scar was happy that means he could remove him from that list. But now that he's back at it and has been doing it for a while, well, basically he looks at him as, you're no better than the people who destroyed my country. You're being complicit.
Yeah. And it's really, I guess my only argument back at him was I wasn't there, but still, you're part of the problem.
Exactly.
So
you're not helping
it.
it.
Yeah, you're still part of that same group. You're still part of the problem. So I get why that argument wouldn't work. But luckily, Marcoh whips out the Philosopher's Stone, or his version of it, because they still refer to it as such, but we know it's a fake. So I feel like they ought to give it a different name.
Yeah.
So it's not the Philosopher's Stone, even though they call them Philosopher's Stones. It's muddy water. You just call them red stones or something. I don't know. I know that's not as fancy.
Well, I mean, in all technicality, they are, in a sense, a Philosopher's Stone. They are just not a complete Philosopher's Stone.
But he whips this bad boy out, and I'm not quite sure what happened here, because he used it on Scar, but it reacted to his tattoos, which I'm assuming is where he kind of utilizes his alchemy abilities. And he absorbed the red stone, and I'm assuming that when he went, he got cornered by the state alchemy soldiers.
By Mustang and the other soldiers.
So he got cornered by them, and then he went to use his ability and just blew a hole into the ground. So I wasn't sure if that was intentional or if the shit backfired because of the stone or what. I wasn't sure what really transpired there. So I was a little confused by that. But
understandable.
But Marcoh said that he had studied the writings. He knew the tattoo, and he knew that the stone would be able to react to his, I wouldn't even call it a transmutation circle, his transmutattoos.
I mean, they're kind of like a transmutation circle, but they do make it a point, although it's the same type of concept in a way, it's almost like two sides of the same coin. So you have alchemy that creates, while Scar's alchemy, quote unquote alchemy, destroys.
Okay.
While you can also destroy stuff with alchemy too. Obviously, we've seen Colonel Mustang and all of the others destroy Ishbal, but it's the alchemic property, I guess, is they explain more about it, and I think they go into even more detail in Brotherhood, but I can't remember 100% sure.
Gotcha. So Marcoh is taken away by the secretary.
Yes.
She shows up and she's like, hey, Fuhrer Bradley. I don't like calling him Fuhrer Bradley.
Just call him King Bradley.
Bradley.
Because that is his other, monogram or whatever, King Bradley.
But he wants Marcoh, and they take him away. And then we see the brothers they have a tiff, which I feel like is a fair tiff to have, because Al is just like, dude, did we not make a promise that we were going to do this shit together, and you were going to just allow him to kill you? What, what the fuck, man? Even though they're both sitting there busted and broken. Yeah. I mean, how you can't fix that, even though he did fix his arm previously, which I thought, well, it's the least you could do. And it's like, well, who's going to fix you now?
Yeah.
Because you're both kind of fucked and you can't really fix each other at this point. So yeah, you kind of, I'm curious how that's going to come back around. But yeah, that was a fair tip to have. And I understand where Al was coming from. You made a promise that you're going to do this shit together. And it just, I understand in the moment, you kind of felt like there was no way out. And that could happen at some point, despite the promise that one of them could die. But if it's a choice, then, that's a promise you can continue to keep. and he was willing to just sacrifice it all just because the chips were down and he didn't know what else to do. So I understand Al's frustration in that moment. So I get it. What else? What else is going on? Was there something else? Oh, well, yeah. A lot more people seem to know about them because Armstrong definitely took note.
Yes, because where Al gets the side blown out of him, Colonel Mustang's people, and you notice it's only a certain, like, the chosen people. Like the people who see, yeah, exactly. Like the people who see that Alphonse is just, you know, a hollow suit of armor are the people that Mustang trust. It's no like back character that, you know, you're never going to see again type person that saw it.
And that's why when they mentioned the secretary had arrived and she was there for Marcoh, I was like, do they need to go cover him up? You know, or something like that. Go hide him. Because that was my concern. Is she going to spot it? Is she going to see it? And you know what's going to happen? But they didn't. It didn't go down that road. But I was worried for a moment because they don't need to know. So yeah, this was very. I don't want to say. I mean, very story heavy, but revelatory. There was a lot of revelations about a lot of the story threads that we'd seen up to this point. A lot of things were explained in greater detail, maybe not fully explained, so there may be more details to come, but enough to make me understand certain character motivations, what they were up to, what they were doing, and you know, it helped clear the air a little bit. And
I was definitely waiting for this, which I didn't realize it was this very next episode. Shows how long it's been since I've watched this. But I was waiting for when you got the story of the fact that, you know, what they call the Ishbalan War was not a war. It was literally a massacre, a genocide. Like, they went in there and wiped out, I mean, at least, 98% of the population.
But the why is the question.
And it will be answered.
You know? Because even as people, I mean, even seeing the way Scar reacts, because he says he's on a mission from God. So you understand their mindset. And this, you know, you could look at it through real world eyes, where you see these conflicts that we see with wars all the time, where you have different religious factions. They can say whatever they want, their reasonings are, but 9 times out of 10, it's, you know, we follow this God, you follow that God, and they're religious wars regardless of whether they want to say it or not. But that's where a lot of the conflict comes from, because, well, this is how we do things. Well, this is not how we do things. This is how we do things, and they don't like it, and then that just, you throw in oil and whatever the hell else you want to do, land. It doesn't matter. It all comes down to a lot of bullshit like this. So you can kind of get an understanding from the Ishbalan, kind of what you mentioned. They see alchemy as kind of a slight against God. And
they see it as an affront to God.
Yeah.
Like, so, you are a person. You are a human. You are not allowed to do things that only God can do.
So in some regards, I could see parallels to certain other religions. I won't say which, but I would definitely say that the military would definitely be the good old Christian USA, buddy. Because that's how we do things. We just bomb it and blow it. Boom, boom.
Boom, boom.
That's how we deal with things. We got an atom bomb. We're going to drop it on you, boy. Y'all love the country of bumpkin. This is America. This is how we talk.
I was going to say, and the funny thing is that most people will just think you're making fun of Southerners, but you yourself are born and raised Tennessean.
I am born and raised Southern. You have no idea what it takes to keep that voice from coming out of my mouth on a regular basis.
Yeah, his daddy talking mumble mouth.
My dad, I can't really do my dad. I've never really tried, but he.
It's adorable, and we love him.
I've been told my dad is boom hire. You ain't gonna dang on man. You gonna pray
Exactly. Mumble mouth.
Come on there and you gonna take them on bomb. Come on, man. And it's a fair assumption. I mean, I wouldn't call my dad Boomhauer to his face, but it's accurate.
I mean, I understand him pretty well. I will say that.
You got to be around him long enough, and you start to you pick up on the language.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Plus, I'm used to that. Southern talk. I have Southern family members that sound like cornbread.
I just wish to God that my dad had a friend who was going, "Now, Ray, let me tell you a little bit about propane."
And propane accessories.
Dang on propane over there. I'm going to cook me a burger on dang on over here. Now, Ray, I don't understand what you're talking about, but it sounds smart. And
Lord.
He's a good person. I kid my father. He'll never listen to this.
No, but we do absolutely adore him. He is amazing.
Yes. But anyway, we got way off topic. Point being, this is a great episode, and it answered a lot of questions. I'm looking forward to more answers, fleshing out more of the story, and what have you.
Yes. I'm excited for you to learn more of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So excited.
Really good anime, let me tell you. I mean, I'm saying that...
I'm so happy.
You've shown me some.
Mm-hmm.
A few that start, and I can't get into it for whatever reason. But this one, I don't know why I got into this. I think it's just, I feel like the narrative is done in a very good way that got me from the start.
Mm-hmm.
It made me curious about the characters, and they don't dawdle. Like I said, for every episode, they'll set something up and then they answer it next time, So even if I'm wondering how long is this gonna, never 2 episodes tops, they'll say, here's something we may want to hear about, and I'm just like, I wonder what that's about. Next episode, there you go. There's your answer right there. I was like, oh, thank you. I don't have to think about it anymore. So I appreciate that. These other animes that I watched, I'm just like, what is going on? What is that? Who is this? Why is this? What is going? I don't. I want answers. I don't need them all at once.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can compel me with your characters to stay interested, then I'll be there. And these characters are the way they wrote these characters from the start. Mm-hmm. They were compelling, they were interesting, and I want to see their story. So take note, writers. You have to compel people. Don't tell people you got to wait 5 or 6 episodes before it gets good. That's not a way to sell your story. That makes people feel like they got to work for it. No one wants to work for it. That's why I don't like starting shows half the time anymore, because you don't know if they're going to last.
Right?
Yeah, it's sad.
Well, I think we should get into the next episode. So, Steven, why don't you take us out?
Weebs, tell your friends to listen to us on their favorite podcasting app. We are everywhere, like Apple and Spotify and Google and Podbean and Stitcher and there's other Pandora. There you go. There's a big one for you. We're on all these platforms. So go wherever you listen, you're gonna find us. I think Spotify seems to be everyone's preference now. I don't know why.
I don't know. Maybe because it's easy.
It's popular, I guess. Everyone just jumps on the popular bandwagon. I personally listen on Google, mainly because Podbean, I used to listen on there when my main podcast was hosted on the platform. I used to have Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo on Podbean. I was paying a pretty penny to keep it on there. And when I decided I was going to move it, boy, you talk about a breakup. They shut the door in my face and said, "Get out!" I was like, "All right, fine." God,
said, "How dare you?"
Literally, I couldn't even listen to my podcast on the app anymore. It was like, "You don't have an account with us anymore." And I was like, "Jesus Christ." Okay. So I listen everywhere else. I don't need them. They can kiss my ass. So don't listen on Podbean. Fuck them. Anyway, if you want to listen a week early, you can go to patreon.com/pencilpaperproductions. Chuck in that beautiful buck or more, whatever you want to do.
A whole dollar. We're cheap.
Singular dollar. We're not asking. That's the least amount I can ask of you. And so for that singular dollar, you get access a week early for these little nuggets. And I'm trying to put up more stuff. There's probably other podcasts that we're doing that are up there too. So if you want to listen to all of these a week early or early from whenever they post, Patreon, if you're following all this stuff. I'm getting new to stuff. I'm lazy. Anyway, YouTube, you can listen on YouTube, youtube.com/pencilpaperproductions. And finally, pencilpaperproductions.com/inspiredweeaboo for all things about the pod.
All right, my little weebs. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.